Hey there, what's up, Soul family? Welcome to this second half of the Recovery Soul Food Saturday Night Soul Session, live with me, Reverend LC. And tonight's guest is just, uh, he is the main event to me. Right now, I am reading his book. I told him just a second ago that I was waiting by my phone for my Audible credit to show up for the month, just so that I could get his book, Dangerous When Wet. I mean, I am just so involved in this book now. He actually has a gift and a talent for storytelling, and I'm so grateful to have the legendary, award-winning author, performer, comedic storyteller Jamie Brickhouse here with us to share so much of just what he does and how he, because today's theme has been all about harnessing pain and bringing it around to passion and purpose. And as we were just talking about, your divine gift, that thing in your life, that part of you that you feel at home doing, that is truly your divine gift, that thing you feel, and that you find yourself in a perfect flow state when you are doing it, that is your superpower. And I hope tonight that we will have the amazing Jamie Brickhouse tell us how he was able to recognize that gift and grow that gift. And I think for anyone in recovery that has a dream, and if you don't have a dream, hang in there. If you continue your healing journey, you continue your recovery journey, I guarantee you will awaken to whatever is passionate and growing within you, because that seed was planted, you know, before you came here, and you're meant for that. So hang on, keep believing, keep walking, keep going. And I promise you, your superpower will reveal itself. And so I am so grateful to have Mr. Jamie Brickhouse here with us tonight. Let's talk a little bit about our partners real quick so we can go ahead and get into this amazing episode with my new friend Jamie. If you are looking for the most amazing sober app on earth, well, then get ready, get excited, because the Sober App 2.0 is on its way. Keep your eye out for that. It will be available for iOS and Android. And our partner with Breakthrough Hypnotherapy's Pamela Topjian is an amazing partnership. I love her so much for standing in her purpose, being in her purpose as a hypnotherapist and deep mind holistic healer. She has offered this amazing community and audience the most beautiful gift ever of a free full session of hypnotherapy. That means that you get not only the consultation and the consultation session, but you get another free session. Listen, you can't lose. So follow through and take her up on that by going to hypnobreakthrough.com, mention Recovery Soul Food, and don't forget, while you're on Amazon, to pick up Pamela's amazing book, I Didn't Come This Far to Only Come This Far. She is a beautiful human being with the most courageous and amazing story, from tragedy to triumph, from trauma to healing. This is a book that will also keep you completely enthralled. And while you're there too, check out Mr. Remy Stoak's book, An Arsenal of Gratitude. Let me tell you, An Arsenal of Gratitude is an amazing thing for anyone, especially in new recovery, who's really trying to hone into getting a true gratitude practice going, because gratitude changes your life. We live by our perception. Our perception defines how we see the world and what we attract within it. And as you begin to create a true gratitude practice, you will begin to see your perception change, what you attract to you change, and therefore your life changes. So go to Amazon, get An Arsenal of Gratitude, and follow Remy on Instagram at Remy Stoak. And our new little partner is Best Day Brewing. You can find them on Instagram at Best Day Brew. They make craft beer for the recovering soul, not the crash. It's amazing. I haven't tried the Kolsch yet, but their IPA, their West Coast IPA, is pretty amazing. So if you guys are so ready to get into this Saturday Night Soul Session with the amazing Jamie Brickhouse, award-winning best-selling author, performer, award-winning comedic storyteller, and just all-around amazing human being, I'm ready. He's ready. So let's go. Hey, what's up, Jamie? Thank you so much for being here, man. I'm so honored to have you.
I am so thrilled to be here, LC. My God, your graphics are amazing. I mean, I was like, this is why I came. This is why I got sober, so I could sit here and get so revved up.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Fantastic. I'm so thank you for having me on, and wow, and thanks for that build up. I hope I don't disappoint anybody.
Oh, you can't because I'm telling you, well, this season I just came to this discovery today that this is my tribe building season. It's been so divine, and every human being that I have sat with on this show has been divinely inspired, and I have made a soul connection to. And my life will forever be enriched. And now I have these amazing friends in my life, and you're no different. I felt like we made an instant connection when
Yes,
we did.
I felt the same way. We did. You know what? You felt it and I felt it, then we did make an instant connection.
We absolutely did. Like, I've just known you forever. And listening to your book, I've got Dangerous When Wet right now on Audible. And he reads it. So Jamie's reading it. So it just makes the whole experience that much more amazing. But just the way that you tell a story, Jamie, that's your superpower. Like that is your divine gift. And we were talking about it, and I've praised you so much. You're probably going to say to Michael Hayes, this one here is just crazy over me. But I am, because I love seeing people in recovery live their gift. So tell us how in the world you came to all of this.
Oh my Lord, that's such
Big
a
question.
But and you were talking earlier about as your lead in about following your dreams, and all that, and and I thought that meant following wet dreams, and which I did a lot of that for a long time, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but
Right.
I'm still shocked sometimes when I think about the fact that I almost threw away my superpower for storytelling and my talents to perform and to write, because I lived in fear and not faith, and I didn't do the work, and I drank and drugged it away, and so much so that I finally got to that point, where you want to die, that point.
I do so know.
And and I tried twice to commit to end my life, and wow, I'm so glad that didn't work out.
Me too.
I'm so glad that story wasn't my final story, because I wouldn't be around to tell it. I can tell you, though. I can tell the story of my attempts, but we won't do that here. But I have done it on, I do a stage version of my book, a solo show, which is called the same title, Dangerous When Wet, Booze, Sex, and My Mother, which is also the subtitle of the book. And when the book came out in hardcover, it was just in the title on the hardcover is Dangerous When Wet, a memoir.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And, and so when I would run into people and I tell them about the book, or they'd ask me about it, and they say, what's it about? And I said, well, it's about booze, sex, and my mother. And so when it was time to do the paperback, and I was talking to the publisher, and they were going to do a new package, as they often do for paperbacks, with just a new design, and I said, well, you think we should add a subtitle? And they said, well, yeah, we could do that. And they said, what do you have in mind? And I said, and I told them that story, and they said, oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's it, you know. So
Yeah.
that is what it's about: booze, sex, and my mother. And I I did theater when I was in school, in junior high and in high school, and then a little bit in college. But then I was just, I didn't go all the way. And I thought, and my mother, Mama Jean, who was a force of nature, this over the top Texas woman.
Yes.
She was kind of like a small town Elizabeth Taylor, had her hair done, once a week, and never left the house not looking camera ready, with her face on, drove a Cadillac, and self-made, image obsessed. And she loved the theater and loved shows and introduced me to it. And my father, I mean, they had both done, community theater. But at the same time, she also, and she had a lot of influence on me. And, she said, but you have expensive taste. Now, you're not going to like being a poor, starving artist and actor. And I listened to that, and I didn't follow that dream, although I dabbled a little in stand-up comedy in my early 20s. I came to New York, and that was a big deal for me, coming from a small town in Texas, and I got to New York. And again, for years, I wouldn't give Mama Jean credit, but, I would tell people, oh, I always loved New York and I always wanted to be here, which is true. But I don't think I would have done it on my own, because as much as she pushed me away from pursuing becoming an actor, at the same time, she pushed me to go to New York, because I was my last year I was in San Antonio for college, but right before I graduated, I said, maybe I'll just stay in San Antonio for another year or so. San Antonio? No. With your lifestyle, New York is where you need to be. And she, she pushed me to come to New York and get into publishing, with the hopes that I'd become a writer. And ever since I was in junior high, my father was a good writer. And so she saw all those talents in me. And when I was in junior high, she would chant the same mantra. It's like, you should be a writer. That's what you should be doing. And I was like, no, I want to be an actor, and writing is too hard. And I did. And I wrote, and I was in the school newspaper, and I had a communication journalism degree, and I did some freelance writing in my early 20s. And when I came to New York, and some stand-up comedy, as I said, but I couldn't focus on those careers because I had my career in publishing and I had my career in drinking.
Yes.
And so that stuff, the writing and the performing went by the wayside. I was like, I've only got time for the day job, for the publishing job, which was a career, and it was a great career, and the drinking.
But do you think, one thing, not to interrupt you, but do you think sometimes when we have this feeling that we kind of desire this one way of going, do you ever think that sometimes we medicate that not feeling authentic when we choose to stay smaller at something? Do you ever think that creates this unrest within us? Because I kind of resonate with that unrest. And then plus, both of us growing up in small towns, identifying as different than the norm,
right.
Being gay, I left and went to San Antonio. That was my big escape from my small Alabama.
I love San Antonio, by the way.
I love San Antonio.
My favorite city in Texas. Yeah.
It was an amazing time. But, there was, for all that time that you kind of feel that urging, I wonder if sometimes, if maybe you ever experienced that numbing, the not being authentic to my passion, knowing what I feel like I'm led to do and saying, but no, I'm going to stay small. Did you ever self-medicate during any of that, or did you not feel it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I'm not sure if this quite is this. I think it goes hand in hand with what you're saying. It may not be quite the same thing, but when I was doing stand-up comedy, and I never, made it big or got to the level. I was doing open mics and that kind of thing, and I would win a couple of contests, and then but I would if someone wasn't, I didn't have the drive to keep pushing. Yeah. And I was also drinking and self-medication. So yes, I think that was part of it. Oh, I'm not good enough, and rather than just pushing through. Yeah. But I had a big opportunity. Beavis and Butthead. This was in the early '90s, and that
Yeah.
was a hit show. And one of the producers was at one of my stand-up comedy gigs, and approached me afterwards and said, "Sound like you can do voices really well, and female voices." And I said, "Oh yeah, I can." And so they brought me in to do. They were looking for cheap non-union labor, and they brought me in, and I did some voices on Beavis and Butthead,
Wow.
and that was a huge opportunity. I mean, I did it. I went and did the voices, but it could have, if I had pushed,
Yeah.
and I could have taken it to other levels, and that was my drinking,
Wow.
not doing that. But one of the most painful moments, and unfortunately, I had it several times. I lived on the Upper West Side of New York City. All the clubs and bars and stuff were downtown, and I was usually coming home late, in the wee hours of the morning or very late at night, and not in a subway, even though but at a taxi. I would splurge and take a taxi. So I would take it from downtown to uptown, and I'd be drunk and high. And when the taxi would always drive by the studio, Sync Sound, which is where I recorded the voices on Beavis and Butthead. And at that point, I was no longer doing it, and I was no longer performing, and I was no longer doing stand-up comedy. And it was so painful every time it drove by there, so much so that I would, when it got close, I would avert
Wow.
my eyes,
Wow.
and even sink my head down.
Wow. There's that disassociation again from that, and that cycle of addiction that begins to speak to us. Like it has no mercy for how much it beats up on you for all that. I mean, it's like your enemy and best trauma bonded friend at the same time. It tells you, gosh, you weren't good enough to do that, so let's take a drink and we'll get through it together. I mean, it's the worst relationship.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful.
It's terrible.
And it's a lot of people have described it as a bad love affair.
It's absolutely
it's a boyfriend, a spouse, a girlfriend, a lover who is so exciting and so much fun, but it almost always ends in a fight or disaster. And then you say, never again. I've had it with you. I'm done. And then they say, oh, come on. It'll be different this time. I promise I won't act like that again. And you do it again. And you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is fantastic. And then the lover beats the shit out of you.
Absolutely. Every time. Gosh, every time it seems that way. So here you are, you're having all of these, regrets, diverting from this. How long does this go on? Because the book talks about and starts in the moment where you're waking up in a hospital because you've now had this overdose, and I'm assuming
I've taken an overdose. It was self-inflicted. Yeah,
self-inflicted. And this is kind of seems like where your transformation starts to begin. I don't want to give away too much of the book because I'm telling you guys, if you don't have it already, jump off when we're done and go get it, because I doubt I'll sleep tonight for finishing it up.
But yeah, and you can get it on Amazon. It's an ebook. Is the best way, or an audio book, which I narrate, as you said. And anyway, yeah. So it opens up with the prologue is me coming to on a gurney after I've taken an overdose of sleeping pills in my own bed that morning, to the news that my mother, Mama Jean, is on a plane. And I'm like, stop her. And they said, that's too late. She's already in flight. I was like, oh, there's no stopping Mama Jean. And I was so angry that, never mind, I wasn't so much more. I wasn't that concerned with the suicide attempt that got me to that gurney. I was more concerned with Mama Jean and her reaction. And I could hear how she'd react with, she'd point a perfectly sculpted red fingernail at me and yell, God damn it. I know you don't end up like this. I just know it. Because she'd been onto my drinking for years. And I will give this away, which is, it's a little an epiphany. I was so terrified of her showing up because I was facing her meant that I would finally have to face myself and face my
Absolutely.
addiction, and
Yeah.
I couldn't sweep it under the rug. You know, like
Yeah.
if my partner, who's now my husband, Micah Hayes, hadn't told her, then maybe I could have talked my way,
Yeah.
out of getting sober again.
Absolutely. I like when I was talking with Brett Morris earlier. It's like the jig is up.
The
Now
jig,
that
yeah,
we cannot hide this addiction anymore. It's gone so far that our there's people are stepping in, and that is the fear. The fear is not so much that they're going to step in, but that I'm going to have to stop, and I'm going to have to pay attention to this, and something else is going to have to happen.
yeah.
Did you? How many times? Or did it take the first time? Did it take for you to actually get sober? And
Oh
what
my
did that
Lord,
process look like for you?
it was a long process for me. I before that suicide attempt that I just described, I had tried to get sober before that, and I had my first bottom was I had, I'd gone out for a couple of drinks after work, which I did almost every night, and that turned into several drinks, that turned into buying Coke at a dive bar across town, that turned in not getting home until 6 in the morning on a school night, and also getting rolled. And this had happened many times. And so this time that it happened, I was so mortified and dejected, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I was sick and tired. And then I called my previous boss, who had gotten sober when I still worked for him. And he came to my apartment, left the office. It was a work day. He came to my apartment, and then he took me to my first meeting later that week. And so I went to the meetings for a few months, and I thought they were great, and and it was amazing that I wasn't drinking. But then I wasn't working any kind of program other than going to the meetings, and I would drink, and I would go in and out and have a few days. And then I finally reached a point where I thought, you know what? I have red hair. I'm gay. And I like to drink a lot. That's who I am. And I saw this as a healthy form of acceptance. And as long as the word functioning is in front of alcoholic, I'm okay. Yeah. And I've heard what all you people have gone through. And if it gets that bad for me, then I'll get sober. Well, of course, we know how that can work out, is that when it gets that bad, it can be very hard. Oh, yeah. To get sober and to get back. And so at that point, I said, oh, I haven't tried to kill myself. I haven't lost a job. I haven't ended up in jail. All those things happened. I didn't end up in jail. I never did. But the other things, I got fired. I got, and it was after getting fired from a job. I had a big job, and I had never been fired in my life. And, had always succeeded in everything. I'd always been a straight A kid. And then in each job, I always, got promoted until I moved on to the next better job. And so I was just devastated and just mortified, and I thought, oh, everybody knows, and everybody, but at the same time, I couldn't accept that it was because of the drinking. Yeah. And I just couldn't get out of that, that deep well of despair and self-hatred. And, I remember lying in my bed, and some days I couldn't get out of it and couldn't go to work, and feeling like, and I have a red ceiling, a bright red painted ceiling, but then the walls are kind of this putty brown. And, but I felt like when I would wake up, I felt like I was in the corner of that bedroom, and the whole room was painted red, and it was wet paint, and and there was no way out. Wow. And then that's when I reached that point. So then so Mama Jean did fly up. I did have to face her down. And there was a little intervention after I spent a week in detox, and I was shipped off to rehab, and I have to tell you this part. Mama Jean, who loved me. I mean, she just adored me, and I adored her, and, and it was sometimes smother love and sometimes too much. But I mean, she was just, as she said, she said, if anything ever happened to you, they'd have to lock me up and throw away the key. So, I mean, this was a big, this was devastating to her that I came close to dying.
Oh my gosh, I bet.
So the rehab was picked and she wrote the check for it. And before I left, she said, and by the way, we grew up Catholic. She said, suicide is a mortal sin. So it's a damn good thing you didn't succeed. Otherwise, you couldn't spend eternity in heaven with me.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
And it goes to show though the difference between just getting clean and sober versus that step of recovery. Because I think that anytime we just try to, especially when we have the tendency to think that the alcohol or the using is the problem, and as long as that goes away, and I think the general public kind of shares that knowledge, which again is why it's so important that we have conversations like this out for people to hear, is because they believe and we believe, oh well, if I just stop using, then my life is going to get all better, and then it doesn't. And then you keep going down the rabbit hole of that pain, and like you said, it gets worse and worse and worse. And it is true when it comes to addiction. I mean, you're on the path, and the path only leads one way, because that's the wake-up point.
Yeah.
We have to get to that place where we're like, forget running from addiction for my whole life. I'm either going to use or I'm going to have to figure this out, because I can't just keep running and getting 2 years clean and then back at it again.
Yeah.
So doing that deeper healing, that's the real work. And so it obviously you come back to that. You come to the place where you've had enough. Your epiphany is, I got to do something different. And what did that look like?
Yeah. Well, I did rehab, and that was great. I needed, I had to be removed from the picture, and I was there for 60 days, and then I came back. But I already knew about meetings, and so I had no problem with going back. So I got it. I did get it that you don't go to rehab, and it's not like having an operation, and then you come out of it, and then you heal, and then
wouldn't it be nice?
Right. It's an ongoing thing. And it's a wonderful ongoing thing. It's a great way of life, and so, I'm fully in the program, but although I thought I was done, and I had relapses after rehab, I call it the 7-month itch, where, things are fine. And then my best friend hurt my feelings and infuriated me, and I drank over it. And then I was back in like a couple of days later. And then I felt overwhelmed 7 months later, overwhelmed at work with a project, felt fear, and I felt like I couldn't do it. It was too much. And I drank over it. And then I was back in a couple of days. And 7 months later, I'm out in Fire Island, which is where I am now. And at that time, I hadn't been coming out here on a regular basis like I do now, and went to a meeting. No problem with the meeting. Beautiful day. Beautiful view of the bay. And I thought, like a robot who's short-circuited, wouldn't it be nice to also have a Cape Cod? And I turned left and went into a bar. And then that was the word that lasted the longest.
Really?
Where I stayed in meetings, but I kept secretly drinking, because I didn't have the guts to openly drink, because I was supposed to be sober.
Right.
My partner, my friends, my mother, my family, and that was rough. It's because it's just no fun anymore. But you have recovery in your head. The drinking is not fun. It doesn't do what for you what you need it to do.
No.
And and I finally got it that you have to want it for yourself, which I thought I did, but I hadn't completely acquired that desire. It's like it's an acquired taste. The desire to stay sober, for yourself. And I finally got it, which is a big point in the book. I could tell you that story, but
well, it is up to you if you want to share it, because I'll be hearing it anyway. But I think that the valid point of all of it is that, like, there's no quick fix for this thing, and it can become like this ever evolving journey that at some point can become, exciting to an extent, even though it is tough. What's been
Yeah.
exciting for me is to know that I can feel feelings, and I can accept myself where I am in them, and not have to use, because one thing for us, I mean, you and I would do a drastic disservice if we didn't talk about the level of addiction that goes on in the LGBTQ plus communities. And I think that, you know, everything, in you and I are close to the same age. And when
Yeah.
the places that we met during those times were
Or
dark
bars.
bars.
Yeah.
They were bars. And so, using became common theme. It was what we were. It was the gay 90s. And, it was, all of your heroes were addicts. And, I'd like to hear your take on why you think that even though it's different now, there's still a deep amount of addiction that happens in our community.
Well, yeah. I mean, for me, even before I was in the gay world, as a child, I was attracted. I like the theater and old movies and
Mm-hmm.
parties, and my parents liked to entertain a lot, and so I was one of those alcoholics that glamorized
Yeah.
the world, the drink, and everything about it, and all the
Mm.
accoutrement and the dressing up and the glitzy. So I was totally all for that when I started going out to gay bars, and there is a glamorization of drinking and drugs in the gay world, and
Mm.
the parties, and it's often offhand, and where's your drink, and oh honey, you want a bump, and like it's no big deal, and it's wonderful, and it sends a mixed message that that you need to be with it, and to be part of the to be really in the center of the community. You need to be doing those things, but also and I'm not sure if it's still that way to the extent that it was with
Mm-hmm.
our generation. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I mean, out here in Fire Island, so I see that there's still a lot of, but it's
Yeah.
also a party place. But and I know that people don't have to, with the apps, the bars aren't as big a deal anymore. Like, but that's
Right.
what we had. We had
Yeah.
that's
That's
where
all
we
we had.
had to go.
Yep. Yep.
And I was my town that I grew up in, Beaumont, Texas. I call it a small town. It's really a medium sized town, and it
Yeah.
had two gay bars in downtown, and I couldn't wait to go. But I also knew, or didn't feel like I couldn't be like a normal teenager when you become sexually curious and active, and you do the normal thing is you see someone you're attracted to at school, and you ask them on a date and go to a dance. We didn't have
Yeah.
that freedom. I didn't feel
Yeah.
like I had that freedom, and I don't think I did. And so I had to go to a bar
Right.
to get that. And I also had to, and that's why there's a lot of young men with much older men, is
Yeah.
because that's who's available, and that's where the world
Absolutely.
is. And you're seeing, you're in those bars at a young age, if you get in there, and you're fast tracking adulthood with drinking drugs.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought up that point, because, I know that there is surrounding, a lot of shame and different things that a lot of us feel. But I'm so glad that you brought up the other very big point, as that it just seems like, happenstance that that's the thing to do. And you're right, that's where we met people. And I don't know very many gay men of our age that don't have that older man story. That it ends up being. I just got finished listening to Billy Porter's book, and
Mm-hmm.
he even had that whole experience. And I think that what you're saying about fast tracking adulthood, that's probably one of the things that can be the most dangerous, in that, when a young brain experiences a substance, that brain molecularly changes. And I know you have a story, your story of drinking very early.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a romance with the alcohol and stuff as well. So I drank very early, and I felt like that was just, oh, this is the answer. It connects me with my dad, who I want to notice me, and it takes me away from all this stress. And so I think that it just changes you. But I remember feeling so much shame when I became addicted. My best friend, who is a gay man, lives in
Mm-hmm.
New York. Um, we would we'd know the day of the week in San Antonio by which gay bar we were going to. Wednesday was the Bonham, and Thursday was Miriam's, and I was working at one of the largest lesbian bars in San Antonio,
Uh-huh.
Nexus. Um,
I
and
do have a funny story about Mama Jean that I have to interject about San Antonio.
Oh yeah, you're going to give it to me. I've been waiting on it and waiting on it. But I got addicted, and my best friend didn't. Like, he was able to move himself out of it, but there I was, and I felt so shameful for getting addicted. Like, how did I lose control?
Mm-hmm.
It was so shameful. But that was our life then. That
Yeah,
was our
and
life
then
in the
right, and a lot of people who like to party hard are, like, oh, come on, you got to get with it, got to do this, and then for the addict, who they become messy, and then, like, oh, you're not, that's not cool, yeah,
Mhm.
you need to drink and drug, but not that much,
Yeah,
and so then you're kind of ostracized because you're a mess, and then
yeah.
you're ostracized if you get sober because you're not playing the game anymore,
Oh yeah. Oh
which is
yeah.
tough. Which is tough. So I went to college in San Antonio, and I loved the Bonham Exchange, which is in downtown San
Great
Antonio
place.
on this street Bonham. It's named after an Alamo fight soldier. And one time, Mama Jean was visiting, and my father as well, and she took me and my friends out to brunch, and we were talking about the last night at the Bonham Exchange and the Bonham. Da, 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 da. And she has this indignant look. I said, "What?" She said, "This place you're talking about, is that some gay bar?" I said, "Yeah, it's a gay nightclub." The Bottom Exchange? She said, "Well, I think I know what they're talking about."
I love Mama Jean. Oh my gosh, I love Mama
So
Jean.
after that, we always called it the Bottom Exchange.
It'll never be the bottom exchange to me again. Now it will always be the bottom exchange. I guess I miss those days. It was also for anyone who doesn't know and hasn't been there ever. It's a very famous place. It's only like a gay bar on Wednesday nights when I was there, and it was a straight bar other nights. But it was this
It
old
was totally
Catholic
gay
boys' stuff.
when I was in college.
Oh, was it?
Although
Wow.
the straight folks were starting to infiltrate, and we were
So
not
that's what
happy about that.
by my year they must have came and almost taken over because
Yeah.
the bottom only had, or either it had like a straight, I can't remember, maybe it was Wednesday was a straight night and Tycoon Flats was the other, but either way it was like this old Catholic boys school, and so it had like all of these different vibes going on in one club. It was like
Right.
three
Right.
or four levels, and I was working on the top level because I was a bartender back in those days. I had gotten on the meth diet plan when I got
Oh.
there.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was great. I lost 100 pounds. I was super cute now, and I was behind the bar and working at the bottom on the third floor. Because if you were a star, you got to work in the middle main bars. But if you were just starting out, you
Uh-huh.
had to work at the top bar. But I just remember that seeing so much use in that time, and just so much, and I remember thinking to myself, and I do really think about it now when I see a lot of young trans men,
Hmm.
and gay men, that they treat themselves and their bodies like they don't like themselves. They treat their bodies like more like, something or someone they hate versus being proud and loving who they are. And I think that that's a sad shame, because that someone's living under the shame of somebody else's belief system. And I think it's the saddest thing to see someone just not embrace who they are. Eh, eh,
Yeah,
because
and that to me is has been the greatest gift being sober is embracing who I am, and back to the
Yes.
superpower thing, and embracing my superpower of storytelling, whether it be through writing or performing. And and that was also part of the something that I drank over at the end, and that really upset me and depressed me, and I would get morose of thinking about it, the fact that I wasn't pursuing any of my artistic talents, and then I'd have to drink more to obliterate the fact that I wasn't doing that. And so when I got sober, I was sober about a year, and I had started writing again, and a friend asked me to do something for a magazine he was working for, a little travel piece, and I did that. And an editor friend that I used to work with, she read it, said, "Oh, that's really good. If are you interested in doing more writing?" Because my friend just retired from Columbia, and she's starting a writing group, memoir writing. I said, "Well, yeah, I've been kind of thinking about that." And I enrolled in this memoir writing workshop, and that's when I started writing Dangerous When Wet. And I have to tell you, it was so exciting that time I couldn't wait. It was that we met once a week, and we showed up. And and I needed deadlines for me to get something on paper, and then also to turn it over. And it wasn't, like I have to turn it, I had to turn it in at a certain point, so I couldn't fiddle with it anymore. And it meant if I could fiddle with it forever, then I may not finish it. And I remember, like, early in that class, one of the first pieces I wrote, which is a story that is in Dangerous When Wet, and I nailed it, and it was a really good, solid piece, and it was funny, and it was moving, and and it was a hit, and my teacher acknowledged that, and she just thought it was wonderful. That was the greatest high. It was better than any drink or drug or sexual high I'd ever have. But having created something, having worked hard on it, having agonized over it, and then having it turn out well. There's just no greater high than that.
You're so right. Like Brett and I were talking earlier in our episode, it's when you're like, just realize that you can really create something that comes from deep within you, like doing this stuff or making one of my digitals, and it comes out looking really good. I think, holy shit, there really is no better high than that, like that's amazing to see something that you've created. One of our listeners has brought up something in the comment, and I'd like to ask your opinion on this. At 3.5 years into your sobriety, like where were you? Were you still playing some of the old tapes in your head? Like tell us about how your healing process has gone. Have you worked through the steps? Do you continue to work through them? Because I know for me at 3.5 years, I was still replaying a lot of old, negative tapes in my head. I wasn't there yet. Nor am I there. But, where were you around that time? And how did you continuously move to make it better?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, I did work the steps right after rehab. So in that first year, which also meant that was also during the time I was still having the 7-month itch of rehabs. But I will say this: I was in the program the whole time during those relapses, and so in that 3.5 year period, I was like I said, I had worked the steps. I was still working with a sponsor, or the same sponsor, because I later changed, and at that point I was writing, and I was serious about it, and I was excited about it, and I was like, I think I've got a book here, and I'm moving forward with it. And so there were a lot of changes happening in my life, and then I got fired from my job, not because of drinking, but because politics, and I was too expensive and all that, and I was happy about it because it gave me freedom. And then I opened, that's when I started my own business. I have a company called Red Brick Agency, a lecture bureau. And so there were all these wonderful things happening, and I was sober enough to know, and grateful enough, and I was sober enough to be grateful, and sober enough to know that it was because I was sober, that none of this would be happening. I wouldn't be able to do any of this. And so for me, it was having worked the steps. I did work them again. I can't remember with the next sponsor. I think it was a little bit later than 3.5 years further into it. But for me, it's always been, going to meetings, and doing service, which I've done a lot of, and that's gone up and down over the years. I did a lot during COVID. I was just on a lot of different Zoom meetings and doing service there. And then I was at this one particular meeting. I had a long 1.5-year commitment as overall secretary. And that was great, but it was so much that I haven't done anything right now. It's service, but yeah, and I grew up Catholic, and as soon as I went away to college, I grew up going to mass every Sunday, with my family, and then when I went to college, I stopped. I was like, I don't have to go, and I'm not gonna, and now, for me, the meetings that I go to are not that to have a higher power or to be spiritual, you need to go to a church or anything like that.
Right.
For me, going to meetings is, we go there, and it's a lot like the church in that you profess your who you are and why you're, and I pray to dead people. So I don't have one particular higher power or God.
Either.
Sometimes it's Mama Jean, sometimes it's my dear friend and boss who died of ovarian cancer at 47. Sometimes it's my father, sometimes it's my mama.
Gosh, I'm with you. It's all day, every day. It just depends on who I need at the time and where I feel led. Well, I think that's all great stuff. And the modern theme that's throughout all of it is that whole gratitude practice. And I think that, it was probably like in my first year, I started, really cultivating a gratitude practice. And then I'd say 3.5 years, I started finding a purpose. And that's when I started becoming inspired. And it's funny how something bigger than you, like once you start to feel that connection within, and you feel that something bigger than you that's pulling you, it will pull you up and out of bed some days, and it will pull you through a lot of triggers. And that was the time that I started getting an inspiration for, like doing this and podcast. And I wasn't there yet, but it all started coming in, and it was like this creative, I don't know, like a meeting with myself, like a meeting with my divine self, my first meeting with God, so to speak. And I think that, that's a great place. 3.5, 4 years, I think your purpose kind of starts coming together. So I appreciate you going back there and sharing with us, because you have a long recovery time.
Yeah. I'll be, I'm headed into 14 years.
Gosh, that's so amazing. And you remember back to day one when you never even could imagine saying that you've been sober for 15 minutes?
No.
It's crazy.
No, and I remembered it. And I also remember vividly in my first job, in my first publishing job. And I mean, by then I was already drinking alcoholically, but I didn't see it as a problem. And I was just, I just loved it. And I remember my boss talking to somehow, I don't know why the conversation came up, but she was talking about her father, and that there had been an intervention when he, when they were growing up, and it struck terror to my heart. And I said, oh my God, I mean, I didn't debate whether or not he needed that intervention, but I just thought, oh my God, you mean to not ever drink? I can't imagine that. To me, it sounded like the saddest thing ever.
Oh, I know. I thought, what am I going to do? Who am I going to be without?
And back to that 3.5 years and thinking about playing the tape or where was I at that time? Mm-hmm. I know that at that time I would still, I don't think I missed it so much, but I would still fantasize about, what if, or, if I could have one night off, and, and knowing that, that I couldn't, or that it wouldn't work out. And I don't have that anymore. I
Yeah.
really, if you said you could have 2 martinis tonight and have and be fine, I'd say no thanks.
Yeah.
Besides, also, I would start bartering. I said, well, I want 6.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, 7 if we're gonna have one. Yeah, 10. See there, it just doesn't work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It never that it always goes through. And
So I'm
I
so
really relate.
grateful for that, and I don't quite
I know.
remember when it was that I got to that point when I was like,
You're right.
I don't. If you offered me that deal, I would not
Yeah.
take it. And I understand this, but here's the other thing: when they would say in a meeting, so and so died, unfortunately of cancer or whatever they died of, but he died sober. And I thought, you know what? If I know that I'm going to be dying, I ain't going to die sober.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that way now. I know
Yeah.
that, I don't, I can't imagine. I mean, I can't, of course I can't have to say that with authority, but if you told me right now I had a terminal illness and, was going to live for 6 months to a year,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to drink because I'd want to be here for
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, living a recovery lifestyle, and when that to me equals just healing, like the two words recovery and healing just seem like the same word to me. When you're living that from that space and you're living life from the heart, it's like, I want to be involved with these connections that I've made. Like I'm grateful for the people in my life. I want to be completely involved in my life. But yeah, you're right. That's such an amazing point that I didn't even remember having those little fantasies with myself of, oh my gosh, if I had all the money in the world and nobody would know, and I could just do this amount of heroin. And the same
Mhm.
thing, dying sober. I thought I wouldn't do that. Like, there's just no way, no way. But you're right. Now it wouldn't make sense, to even go back that route. So I'm so grateful. So tell us about this, what you've got coming up. What is happening for Jamie Brickhouse? What are you doing? What's next? Just everything. Tell us
Sure.
what's coming for you.
Well, what I do every day is I tell a true story wearing high heels on TikTok. And I'm on there at Jamie, my name, JAMIE _Brickhouse. And I post every day, and they've really taken off. And I've been doing social media a long time, but I started doing the TikTok stuff about a year ago during COVID, because I wasn't able to, perform as often as before COVID. And it was so much fun to I'm like, oh, okay, I get to wear high heels, and I'm a clothes horse. And so I can wear all my different outfits. I'm dressing up more now at home than I ever did pre-COVID going out. And then I get to do, to tell my true stories. And a lot of them I would tell, like stories from Dangerous When Wet. And it gave a whole new life to Dangerous When Wet. So people started buying the ebook, and then they love the way I tell the story and my voice. And so they love the audiobook. And I also do a show called I Favor My Daddy, A Tale of Two Sissies, which is based on the memoir that I've been working on. And I just wrote a piece around Father's Day for HuffPost Personal.
Yes, it was so good.
About that, and it's really a showcase for what the memoir will be, which I
wait.
just finished the manuscript, and so we're shopping around the publisher. So hopefully it will be coming out in the next year or so. Anyway, but I would love it if all your listeners checked out the article. It's HuffPost Personal. Just Google my name, or you can go to my link tree, which is Jamie Brickhouse link tree. So I got the TikTok going every day. I Favor My Daddy, A Tale of Two Sissies.
I can't wait.
So if the first book was about my drinking, my sexuality, and my relationship with Mama Jean, this book is about my father, Daddy Earl's drinking, his sexuality, and my relationship with him. And here's how we met. I am the weekly host for Sober Podcast, which is part of the Sober Network, or Soberverse, as they're calling themselves. So you can those podcasts, you can find them wherever you get podcasts, but they're posted every Saturday. And
Oh, I cannot wait for the new book to come out. I cannot wait to just I just want to see you shine, Jamie. I think that you are brilliant at what you do. I think that you should absolutely, that everyone should see you. And let's not forget, it's not just the outfits and the high heels. You've got some amazing legs on you.
oh
And
well, thank you. Yes, my legs have been a hit, I have to say.
absolutely, I kept thinking, is this just the way he's standing or what? Like, what is the deal with these legs?
You know,
It's
I've
not
always been self-conscious about my body. You know, it's I'm not built up enough, and my chest is not big enough, and you know, I'm too skinny, I'm too fat. But I will say this, you know what? Accentuate with what you got, and I have always been happy about my legs. So yeah,
love that.
the crowds on
Learn to
TikTok seem to go nuts for my legs. So you know, when I started doing these videos, it was out here during the summer, and so it was naturally I was in shorts or in a bathing suit. But then people went cuckoo about my legs, so now I almost never wear pants. I'm covered, but you know what
right.
I mean.
Right. They're amazing stories, and I certainly enjoy them. They always give me such a just a great part of the day. And again, the way you tell the story, it's so intriguing that it engulfs you. You're invested in every part of it, from the material of what someone's wearing to the color of the car to the way the hair is done. I mean, the way you tell a story, Jamie, it is absolutely your divine talent. It is your
Well, thank you.
superpower.
Can I tell you just one story before we
You
go?
can tell me
I'll tell-
anything. This
All
is
right. I'll. This is in the book, but it. So I've told you about that 7 month itch and of relapsing every 7 months, and I never told Mama Jean that I had been relapsing, and she she started slipping away. Her mind had been hijacked by Lewy body dementia. I think Alzheimer's, only weirder and worse. But at the time, we didn't know what was going on, and so she was hospitalized after she just went completely haywire, hit bottom, if you
mm,
will, in Texas. And so I hopped on a plane and I flew down there to be by her side, like she'd done for me. And when I saw her in the geriatric facility, I'm not, you know, she was not camera ready. Her, you know,
oh,
hair
wow.
wasn't done. Nightgown needed changing. And I'm not even sure if she knew who I was. And
Mm,
at one point, so I turned away from her, trying to erase what I had just seen, a mad
mm,
woman in my mother's body. And she grabbed my arm in a vice grip. And I turned around and she was pointing a red fingernail at me and glaring. And she said, "You don't know." And I said, "What?" She said, "Have you been drinking?" I said, "No." "Don't lie to me." I said, "I'm not." And I wasn't. But all of a sudden, she was Mama Jean.
wow.
And I said, she said, "You better not be." I said, "Remember, Mama, that's all behind us. You took care of that. You don't have to worry anymore."
Mm,
And I thought, who would blame me if I drank over my mother losing her mind? But then I thought, there's another way to look at this. If you can't
mm,
stay sober for yourself, do it for her. And I
mm,
said, you don't have to worry anymore. And she said, "Okay, but promise me, promise."
mm,
I said, "I promise."
wow.
And I kept my promise. And it was the last push I needed. And of course, I'm sober for myself now. And 5 months later, I was 7 months sober when that happened. And 5 months later, she died.
Mm,
And I finally got a year of sobriety.
wow. Beautiful story, Jamie. Thank you so much for sharing that. That gives me complete chills that you were able to make that promise to her and keep it. I have a promise like that close to my heart. I made that promise to my grandfather when he was
Yeah.
taking his last dying breath, and I know just what you mean when you say that promise, because every time that other option pops up, that promise
Right.
is there to meet it as
Yeah.
well.
And you know
So,
what? I've
oh,
performed that story a lot in the show. I mean, I've done it on storytelling stages, but it's part of my solo show. And you know what? That's part of what keeps me sober. I mean, I
yes,
am doing it for myself, but you know, I thought, oh, I don't ever want to have to perform this show
yeah,
having gone out and
uh,
broken that promise.
powerful, Powerful. We've covered so much tonight, and I think that anyone showing up here, whether you have 25 minutes or 25 years in recovery and sobriety, can take away something from this. You know, we come down to the bones of recovery, and that is having something bigger than you. Before it can be about you,
Mm-hmm.
make it something bigger than you, whatever it is. Keep getting back up, keep going. Don't give up on yourself.
Yeah.
Don't expect to get it right all in one fell swoop. We didn't get that way. We didn't get to rock bottom overnight, and we're not going to get away from that overnight. But the ability to sit on a platform like this and look such a talented human being in the eye and share close personal happenings and stories in a safe environment is a beautiful thing. I'm so grateful to be clean and sober and in recovery and healing and authentic to my own self. And
Yeah.
because I can't connect the ability that we have to connect to other people is a direct reflection of the ability we have to connect to ourselves. And I think that's what authenticity is when you're able to meet someone who's able to connect with themselves, they can connect better with you. And so, Jamie, I am forever connected with you at this point. You are a divine addition to my life and the lives of many, many, many. Keep living in your passion. Make sure I know as soon as this book comes out, the next one, I'm going to be in touch with you anyway as I go through this. I just know I am. Um, and
Absolutely.
just thank you. Just thank you for what you do
You're
and
welcome. Thank you for having
inspire.
me on. And the other, big part of what keeps me here is also helping other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're amazing at doing that. Amazing at doing that. Everybody make sure that you go and follow Jamie Brickhouse. Catch those TikToks right now. I'm telling you, it will bring a smile to your face and an amazing light to your day. It's always amazing to see Jamie and to listen to him be in his passion and tell his stories. Good luck with everything that you're doing. You are using every gift and superpower you have to change the world on more levels than I think you even quite grasp and understand. We need you in the world right now, sharing your voice, giving new stuff. So y'all go and follow Jamie Brickhouse on TikTok. Make sure that you get there on Instagram as well. He's everywhere, and he's a real treat. A treat for you, a treat for me, just a treat for humanity. And make sure that you also follow Recovery Soul Food everywhere on Instagram and all major platforms for the audio podcast. I'm so grateful to have gotten to do this double header today to sit in the space with two of the most amazing human beings that I have had the pleasure to meet. Until next week, everybody, I hope you have the most amazing week, that you keep coming back, and that you do whatever it takes to get up from your give up and create a life you love. It's an amazing life up here. Jamie, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to see you again.
Thank you. I loved every second of it, LC. It's been an
Thank you
honor.
so much. Everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. I love you. See you later.